I don't want to be the kind of podcast. Oh, hey, it's B&S about movies. I'm Sam. I don't want to be the kind of podcast that beats up on movies or riffs on them, right? I hate that. It's easy. It's cheap. But this week we're going to talk about 3 movies that I hate. They all star the same person. They're all directed by the same person. Why do I watch these? Why have I put myself through them? Well, up first is a very important movie in the history of canon films, and that would be Bolero.
A bold and beautiful young woman embarks on a noble mission.
I have come all this way to give you something, my virginity.
I will take your gift with great happiness.
Yearning to learn the ways of love, but yet to be fulfilled.
He wants us live.
She continues her search.
Will you show me everything?
To indulge her every desire.
Am I too greedy?
Bo Derek stars as an international adventuress in the film that shocked America, Bolero. It's an experience you'll never forget.
Menachem Golan worked with John and Bo Derek to make this movie, which was to be distributed by MGM as part of their ongoing deal with the studio. But when Bo screened this film for MGM CEO Frank Yablans, the studio head hated the movie so much and its erotic content that he was sure would get an X, that he invoked a breach of contract clause to terminate the distribution deal with Canon. But this movie made millions, especially when it came out on cable and video, because Bo Derek ruled the world in 1984. In her teens, Bo Derek quit school, became a beach bum, and found her way into the arms and bed of a 3-decade-older John Derek, who was married to Linda Evans, who he'd left Ursula Andress for, who he'd left Patty Bears for. Derek had a thing for young women, as well as are using their beauty to further his career, if I can be perfectly frank. After all, the first movie he made with Bo was Fantasies, filmed when she was still a minor. And it's about a young girl in love with her brother and trying to avoid the carnal interest of her grandfather. Does this sound like a Jess Franco movie? Yes, except that Bo Derek ended up being one of the biggest mainstream celebrities in the world by 1984, thanks to the movie 10, a movie in which a cornrowed Bo ran right into every man's fantasies. She's also married to Sam J. Jones in that movie. People tend to forget that once Dudley Moore's character ends up sleeping with her, he realized that she's not the perfect being that he imagined. And yes, that infamous sex scene is set to Ravel's Bolero, which is the kind of thing John Derek had to think was sheer genius when he named this movie.
Look, there's nothing wrong with people being happy, but there's more to life than turning on and screwing to Ravel's Bolero.
This lesson would be lost on everyone that threw money at Bo Derek-related projects that came after that film. I will say she does get her leg eaten in Orca, so we do have some affection for her. Supposedly, Bolero is a remake of a 1934 Carol Lombard and George Raft film, and it would have been written, directed, filmed, shot, and edited by John and starring Bo. And this seemed like a can't-miss movie for Canon, as even though the Tarzan film was a bomb with critics, it did great box office. And we'll get to that Tarzan movie again in a second. I know you're like, please get to the Bo Derek Tarzan movie, Sam. Don't worry. Sometime in the 20s, Erin McGalvery, a virginal 23-year-old American, although Bo seems like she's in her late 30s, early 40s by the way she carries herself in her makeup. She's really 28 here. Has just graduated from an exclusive British college, a feat that she celebrates by running naked across the campus and into the protective blanket and arms of family chauffeur Cotton. Cotton is George Kennedy, a man always willing to dependably show up no matter how bad a movie is. He is the American Donald Pleasance. That could also be John Carradine, but let's just say it's George Kennedy.
You were really a cowboy?
I was until I got so big the horses figured they ought to ride me.
Did you kiss your horse like in a moving picture?
I kissed them better than anybody. I was a really good kisser.
Now, her goal is to find a perfect man to take her virginity. So she drags Cotton and her friend Catalina, who is Anna Obregon, who's also in Canon's Treasure of the Four Crowns, around the world to find ultimate pleasure, a phrase she says a lot in this, which should be sexy but ends up feeling like anything but. Perhaps it was because this movie had been so hyped up, but even when I was a just into puberty, charged up bundle of sexual frustration hidden behind a fat kid body and frog-like glasses, even this nerd couldn't see the appeal of Bo writhing cross-legged and screaming, "Ecstasy!"
I want ecstasy. Let's find it.
This is not the first movie where a sex symbol of the 80s plays with the plot of Rudolph Valentino's The Sheik, Seabrook Shows in Sahara, and that movie also cost Canon a lot of money. But it's also the only one that has Bo fall for a bullfighter named Angel, who's Andrea Occhipinti from New York Ripper, and then nurse her lover back to bawling health after a bull busts his balls. Also, she takes a 14-year-old gypsy named Paloma, Olivia Diabo, under her wing, and yes, this movie sexualizes this girl, and yes, Olivia Diabo was 13 going on 40 when she made it. This is a movie made by a Z-grade sleaze director that Hollywood kept giving money to. This is not a Jess Franco movie. This is not a Category 3 movie. This is not Italian sleaze. This is a major studio movie. As dumb and unerotic as the scene where they lick honey off one another is,
Every time he went for the honey, my stomach would sort of rise to meet his lips.
the true joy of this movie is the insane press war that ensued between the Derricks and Cannon. There were battles before shooting even began, as obviously Golan realized that he was making a movie with two absolute maniacs, people who fired Fabio Testi because they believed he had herpes, and then Cannon had to pay his full salary and cast him in The Ambassador. The Derricks also fired half the cast and crew, at which point Cannon stopped sending money, at which point the Derricks started funding the movie with their own American Express cards. Then a leaked memo from Cannon claimed that Bolero was a total embarrassment. Even today, when you read articles on the web or in past newspaper and magazines, there's a lot of confusion over who wanted what. Some claim Brooke went to MGM, as we said in the beginning, and begged for them to cut out the sex that Cannon demanded. Others say Cannon knew they wouldn't be able to advertise a movie with an X rating and begged Derrick to compromise on his final cut and give them something they could sell. But when MGM dropped Cannon, they made 1,000 prints and got ready to make their own money. Bo Derek then posed for Playboy, giving the public what they wanted before Cannon could put it on screens. Actually, those photos were all shot during the movie for publicity purposes that John took and sold to the magazine. For the first of many times everybody went to court, Bo accused Cannon of stealing publicity photos for the movie out of her bag and then using them in the film's press kit. Isn't that the reason for publicity photos? Yes. Now, I know that Cannon did a lot of wacky stuff, putting Dustin Hoffman in ads and not even telling them they were making a movie with him, but I think they would want these publicity photos. That said, somehow this movie still made money. It was a big deal on cables and, of course, video rentals. And it had that must be 18 to rent handwritten sticker that I always talk about. But what's really funny about it is, it's not that dirty. If you're 18, you could just go rent adult, unless you're afraid to get the giant book of pornography that my hometown video store had and have to say out loud what movie you're renting. Maybe it's easier to rent Bolero. I kind of love that this movie has a don't look now urban legend that the final sex scene is real when it looks faker than hot tub sex and Showgirls. To paraphrase Senator Lloyd Benson to Dan Quayle, John Derrick, I have watched 125 plus movies by Jess Franco. I've watched him film his wife Lena Romay with Many Women and Men. Jess Franco and Lena Romay are friends of mine. John Derrick, you're no Jess Franco. In short, he doesn't seem like a guy willing to cuck himself while the cameras run like a Jess Franco is. Bo also claimed that Golan and Globus were so disappointed with this movie that they threatened to take away the Derrick family ranch, which sounds like something the Cobra Commander and not the Go-Go Boys would do. With MGM out of the picture, Cannon was free to make all the money for their future movies, like Missing in Action, which was a huge deal. As for the Derricks, they'd go on to make another movie after this. That'll be the third one we get to. I think in this war, Golan and Globus were the winners. I'd like to thank Austin Trunick and his amazing The Cannon Film Guide, Volume 1, 1980 to 1984. When I asked him about this movie, Austin said, this is one of the few that was a chore to get through. Yeah, it was. Bolero is the roughest of rough watches.
What was that?
That, I believe, my dear, is Tarzan.
MGM presents Bo Derek, Richard Harris, and Miles O'Keefe in Tarzan, the Ape Man.
It's a great white ape, supposedly 10 feet tall.
A great white man, supposedly 100 feet tall.
This movie has a tagline, unlike any other Tarzan you've ever seen. It was written by the aforementioned Gary Goddard and Tom Rowe. Originally, as we said, Goddard had been hired to write a Dazzler movie, but, John and Bo came in, and as soon as MGM announced that the studio was making a Tarzan film with them, Warner Brothers complained, as they were making a Robert Towne movie called Greystoke, and maybe they had a point, as they had bought the rights to the character from the Burroughs estate, which is how you do it, right? Well, MGM argued that the Derricks would be remaking 1932's Tarzan the Ape Man, which they had the rights to do, as MGM had released another remake in 1959. The Burroughs estate responded by suing MGM before a single frame was shot. The original actor cast in this role, Lee Canalito, injured his knee, making him need a stuntman. The stuntman had to go an emergency appendectomy. So Canalito quit or was fired 5 weeks into shooting, and the second stunt double, Miles O'Keefe, debuted in the role. You may know him as Ator or the Green Knight in Cannon's Sword of the Valiant. Somehow Richard Harris was in this, playing James Parker, the hunter father of Jane, who is Bo, who gets lost in Africa searching for a mythical white ape. James wants to capture this ape, who, spoiler warning, is Tarzan, dead or alive. And John Philip Law is in this movie. Poor John Philip Law and being in these movies. Anyways, the natives, led by the Ivory King, Steve Strong, the former tag team partner of Jesse the Body Ventura, kidnap Jane and tie her up nude, which is pretty much a John Derek movie. They also kill her dad. So Tarzan saves her and they make sweet love. And a chimpanzee, played by CJ, who is Clyde in Any Which Way You Can, sucks on Jane's nipple because, hey, it's a John Derek movie. This is... Anyways, the most beautiful woman in our time and the most erotic adventure of all time. That's another tagline. See why Playboy calls Bo Derek the sexiest Jane in Tarzan history. The Lord of the Apes goes ape for Bo Derek. Anyways, this movie has some William Castle level BS. During a scene involving Jane trying to get away from Tarzan, Miles O'Keefe found himself face to face with Neil, a fully grown African lion who protected Bo. In fact, Neil was a method actor, and he nearly went after O'Keefe for real. I am not sure I believe this, except Neil was in the movie Roar, and everybody in that movie was bitten or had their skull lacerated or almost lost an eye, because you can't shoot that often with real untrained lions. Even trained lions will go crazy. If you haven't seen Roar, man, I got to do it on the show. That leaves us with my least favorite Bo Derek movie, which really is like trying to decide between being constipated or having diarrhea. The final movie is Ghosts Can't Do It.
Meet Bo. Bo knows how to live. And most important of all, Bo knows how to love.
I just want you to remember all the good times.
That's every single second.
But there's one small problem.
Courtney thinks he's having a heart attack.
Honey, I'm not people. I'm just a ghost.
And now, Bo knows Ghosts Can't Do It. Starring Hollywood's Ultimate 10, Bo Derek, and two-time Oscar winner Anthony Quinn.
I'm back.
It's an unconventional love story that shows Bo knows amorous. And Bo knows adventure. And Bo knows how to get it.
You know what he wants? He wants to possess your body.
You know, you have a nice head of hair. It'll be nice to have that again.
I prefer you possessed it.
Bo Derek and Anthony Quinn in Ghosts Can't Do It.
Welcome back!
Now available on video cassette.
This is without a doubt one of the worst movies I've ever seen. John Derek somehow said, could I make a worse movie than the last two we talked about? I didn't think he had it in him. And for years I avoided this movie, and God, I should have just kept avoiding it. It did not even have a modicum of anything that I enjoyed. Even talking about it now, while probably funny, it just brings back stress and rage and trauma, as the kids say. Katie is Bo Derek and Scott is Anthony Quinn. They're 30 years apart in age, but have a fulfilling, sex-filled relationship. Unfortunately, all that sex gives him a heart attack, and his doctor tells him they can never horizontally dance again. So instead of looking into alternate therapy or a second opinion or a way for them to have intimacy, he kills himself.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Yes, Katie, God was going to get me, so I beat him to it with a 12 gauge.
But you could have taken pills.
Real men don't eat quiche.
Julie Newmar is his guardian angel. Oh, man, what a guardian angel to have. But she's so bad at her job that she allows him to return to Earth. They'll come up with a plan where Katie will kill Fausto, who's Damien, and he'll possess the body.
You mean you take another body? And with this body, you'd make love to me?
You bet I would. I mean, if it's possible.
I don't know, Scott. That's kinky stuff. We've never been kinky.
This comes after she's traveled the world and trying to find the perfect sex partner, all while running her husband's business and wheeling and dealing. The end of this, Fausto accidentally drowns and Scott is unable to possess his body. Yet when Katie revives him with CPR, Scott can't possess him. I just watched this movie and they changed the rules at the end after hours of Anthony Quinn violently pissing all over his acting legacy in a performance that defines and goes beyond bad. I mean, let's take a look at the dialogue in this and imagine it. I know you're probably stressed about the election. By the time this airs, probably the country's on fire. definitely the country's on fire, but Donald Trump is in this, right? So he says,
"Be assured, Mrs. Scott, that in this room there are knives sharp enough to cut you to the bone, and hearts cold enough to eat yours as hors d'oeuvres."
You can bet your sweet little ass on it.
You're too pretty to be bad.
You noticed.
If Katie's last name is Scott and her husband's name is Scott, was his name Scott Scott? The credits for this movie have a line, and yes, that really was Donald Trump. Are we to doubt that that was Donald Trump, that they would make you think it was Donald Trump and have a fake Donald Trump, or was it an android? What is the conspiracy here? Also, one more time, this movie's happy ending is an innocent man dying so that Bo Derek can keep on banging a man 30 years older than her, who has spent most of the movie in a tube lit like a swimming pool, belling dialogue while she refers to him as great man. Every time she speaks him, she says, "Oh, great man." What is going on with this movie? Is this what the relationship with John and Bo was like? I'm sure Bo Derek is a wonderful person. She had her own trading cards in the 80s. People worshipped her. Every girl got cornrows because they wanted to be her. But I just don't understand it. I just don't get it. I mean, certainly, yes, she is decent looking, right? But is she the hottest person in the 80s? I mean, I don't think so. There's wheeling and dealing in this movie against Trump. I mean, that alone.
Did I win? I did, didn't I?
You were good.
I read your book. And I won. I did. I beat you.
You were very good. You played the situation perfectly.
So I beat the situation, but not you.
That's what you did.
I think you like to make mischief.
You noticed that too.
God, what am I going to do next? Like a whole episode of all Trump's appearances in movies? Like, yes, he's in Home Alone 2. He's in a lot of movies. Way more movies than any other presidential candidate has been in, other than Ronald Reagan, right? And that worked out really well. Anyway, sorry to bring up all this pain. This is Sam. Thanks for listening. Good day.